So before we get into what not to do as a leader, I want to talk a little bit about where this misconception comes from, that if you're good at a given trade, all of a sudden you're going to be good at leading people in that given trade as well. And so this is a misconception that we see all the time, whether it's in the real estate industry, whether it's in the medical industry where you have a physician who might want to start their own practice, is that they make the assumption that because they're a good physician, they automatically are qualified to become a good business owner or start their own practice. Now, in our industry of real estate, we see that all the time where we have realtors who are selling a lot of houses. They have a high degree of success with their real estate brand, and then they decide to either start a team or open a brokerage, and they find out pretty quickly that their skills of generating leads for clients and their skills of selling homes don't necessarily translate to their management skills, their visionary skills, and their brokerage management skills. So the problem we see with this is that you have a talented individual, whether it's in selling houses or in the medical field, that thinks that that talent is completely translatable over to running a business. And so they open up an office, or they start a brokerage, or they start a team with that same understanding of excellence, and they forget that leadership and managing people and leading people is actually an entirely separate skill from the given task that they're building a business around. So before we get into the top mistakes that leaders make, I just want to say that if you're good at a given task and you want to build a business around it, make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to help develop you as a leader of leading others, not just people who are going to help you hone that given task or hone that given skill. I'm Kate Simon. I coach business leaders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs all over the country so that they can hone their leadership skills and ultimately get to their organizational goals. Make sure that you subscribe so that you can stay in the loop on all things leadership. One of the first mistakes that I see leaders make all the time when they're starting a business or they're starting a team is that they make it about them and their goals. Now, let me be super clear. I understand that if you're leaning into leadership, or you want to start a business, or you want to start a brokerage, there's certainly something that's about you in that. In fact, you're putting your heart and soul into this process. You're putting the most time in, you're putting the most energy in, you're probably putting the most money in. And a lot of times the mistake I'm seeing leaders make is they assume that the people who are working with them and for them have that same degree of buy-in. Now, when you're hiring people, you want to find people that are passionate about what you're passionate about. That being said, as a leader, it's important that we make the business about our people and their goals, and not about us and our individual goals. So when you're starting your business, or when you're looking to lead others, you want to make sure that you're leading them towards their goals that fit within your goals, and don't just lead them on the path to your goals. Now, the reason that this is most important is because you want to get a high level of buy-in for them and share with them how being a part of your organization or your team or whatever it is you're building will help them achieve whatever they want to achieve in their life, right? Nobody's ever going to be as excited about you hitting your goals as they're going to be about them hitting their goals. So in coaching, one of the biggest mistakes I see leaders make is they start talking about their goals and why the company is important to them, instead of framing it in a way that makes it important to their people so that they can ultimately hit their goals. All right, so the second mistake I'm seeing a lot of leaders make, and honestly, I'll share with you where this comes from, but the mistake I'm seeing is leaders are so excited for their vision that they end up overpromising and under-delivering. Now, again, I think that this comes from a really good place, because if you're starting a business and you're an entrepreneur, there's a certain type of person who does those things, right? They have high charisma, they're visionaries is what we call them in our field. And this is a certain type of personality that really they kind of can't be caged. You can't really hold them back from anything. And so in their mind, sky's the limit. They can do anything they set their mind to. And I think that's a beautiful thing as it comes to vision casting and setting goals. And honestly, if you're being led by a visionary, it's incredibly inspiring. But what a leader in that position needs to look out for is that they're going to have people that are hanging on every single word they say. And so as a visionary, your vision might be all the way in the clouds as far as where you want the company to go. And even if you're off a little bit, it could hurt your credibility with your people if you find yourself in the habit of overpromising what's possible and under-delivering on that promise. Now, I'm not suggesting that as a leader you have to be absolutely perfect. Yet, what I'll encourage you to think about is, in leadership, people are not just joining a company, they're joining you. And your word and your reputation is what they're building their security around, right? And so you have to be very careful with what you say, what you promise, and make sure that you're pretty darn confident of what it is you're sharing with them. Otherwise, if we get in the habit of overpromising and underdelivering over and over and over again, it actually hurts your credibility as a leader, even if your intentions are good. So overpromising and underdelivering is one of the biggest mistakes I see leaders make. And again, it comes from a good place, yet it has long-term consequences on the overall credibility of a leader and ultimately who stays with you long-term. So the next one on, what are some of the most common mistakes we see leaders make? And again, this one's nuanced, so stay with me here. One of the biggest mistakes a leader can make is to cancel meetings with their people. Now, let me explain. Occasionally things come up, right? Occasionally something happens where you can't make a meeting, but again, every single opportunity we have to meet with our people, whether it's face-to-face, whether it's on Zoom, it might even just be a phone call check-in. Every single time we have a chance to do that, we are making a promise to show up for our people. And if we don't show up for that meeting, we're telling them that we don't value that relationship and we don't have to show up for them. Now, again, on the surface, your people might say, oh yeah, Kate, no big deal. I know you had something come up. That's okay. We'll catch up next week. Yet over time, it's going to erode the trust of that relationship. And it's also going to erode your opportunity as a leader to actually develop that person. So here's what I mean by that, right? When you can consistently show up for your people, you're starting to train them so that they know what they can expect every single meeting. When they know what they're walking into in a given meeting, they're going to be more receptive to hearing what feedback you have so that they can ultimately grow and develop to hit their goals. And so the subject matter of the meeting is less important than the fact that you have a meeting with your key people every single week and you make sure that it's the most important meeting of your week. Now, I can already hear a handful of you, well, Kate, what if I have a $2 million listing appointment and they can't do it another time? Are you telling me that I shouldn't cancel my one-on-one to take that listing? Yes. Now, in theory, I would like to think that you're working with a seller where you have flexibility around the time. And sure, there might be a one-off situation where it's an opportunity that you can't turn down. And I'm sure your people would ultimately understand that. But what I want to be crystal clear in all of our minds is that the most important thing in leadership is the ability to show up for our people on a consistent basis. And so if you're finding yourself in this pattern where you're setting meetings and canceling them, setting meetings and move them, start from scratch, ask your people what day and time works for them that they can consistently hit, and then you make a decision on what day and time you can consistently hit. So for a lot of the leaders that I coach right now, they have one day a week where they know they're not scheduling appointments, they're not out of the office, and they are working on the business by meeting face-to-face with their key people, going over a very specific agenda, which again, make sure you subscribe. I'll be going over that in a future video. And they're consistent with those meetings. Now, our ability to show up consistent is going to pull the best out of our people. So although it seems like a small scheduling conflict or not a big deal to move meetings, I'm telling you right now, that's one of the biggest mistakes I see in leadership because it ultimately erodes the trust that our people have in us, thus holds us back from the organizational goals and what we're trying to achieve together. The fourth mistake I see a lot of leaders make, and again, I understand why they make this mistake, but I see them choosing customers over their key people, okay? They choose customers over their key people because they're focused on the short-term gain of whatever they're getting from that customer exchange, even if it undermines or undercuts the people that are bought into their vision. So I'll give you an example of this, right? So in our world, we do coaching. We have a team of coaches who coach other entrepreneurs around the country, and occasionally, doesn't happen often, but occasionally we have a client that is tough to please, impossible to please, the target's constantly changing, and it's really just not a match for our organization. Now, of course, as the leader, I'm gonna hold space. I'm gonna make sure that this client feels heard, feels comfortable, and see if there's any win-win scenario here. Once it becomes obvious that this is not a win-win scenario and they start, either tearing down the organization or the people within it, I'll do everything I can to gracefully exit that conversation, gracefully exit that relationship, and then wrap my arms around the people to let them know that this was a no-win situation. There might be development opportunities within that, but I need them to know that I'm with them and not against them in this scenario. One of my rules, and this is really a guiding rule I have with all of the people that I lead, is that number one, if I am emotionally charged, whether it's frustrated, whether it's ticked off, whether it's, oh my gosh, why did somebody handle this way? I don't address anything with anybody, okay? If I am frustrated, I am not gonna have a conversation with somebody in that moment. I wait until I'm regulated, I wait until I'm clear-headed and I can talk without emotions coming through. The second thing, and this is a rule I have for myself, and it is, I never want the people that I'm leading to see my number come up on their phone and think, oh crap, what does Kate want? I never want them to have that pit in their stomach that they did something wrong or that they're gonna be in trouble. So it's really important in leadership that if we're committed to growing and developing people with us, we have to create a safe scenario where we can wrap our arms around these people, grow with them towards our goals, instead of feeling like we're against them if and when things inevitably go wrong. So the number 4 mistake I see leaders make is that they choose the customer and they really adopt this mindset of the customer is always right. And what they end up doing to their people is isolating them, making them feel like crap. And ultimately, people don't want to stay in a place where they don't feel like they can win. So the last mistake I see leaders make, and by the way, this is at all levels of organization. So this could be on the ground floor of an organization, or it could be with a multi-billion-dollar organization, is that they lose connection with their key people. Now, as a highly driven person, a highly goal-motivated person, listen, at the end of the day, you either hit the goal or you don't. And it's taken me a while to learn that building the relationships along the way really makes this entire journey of building a business much more enjoyable. And I'm not saying this is my only motive, but you actually get more out of your people when they know that you care, rather than just throwing an objective out there and leaving them out to swim to hit that objective. Now, it's important to understand that as your organization gets to different levels, the people that you need to stay in connection with, it'll change, right? So if you're the CEO, founder, or president of the organization, you're probably gonna have anywhere from 5 to 7 key people, director level people that report to you at any given time. Those are the people I am telling you desperately not to lose connection with, whether that's your weekly one-on-one, whether that's a quarterly dinner, a quarterly lunch, a quarterly breakfast. These people need to feel that you have their back and you're bought into who they are. These people need to feel that you know their family, you know their husband, you know their wife, you know what's going on with them, because these people are fighting the battles for your organization that you might not know anything about. And so if you're gonna pour time and energy into anybody, it's the key people that are gonna be running your organization in your absence. I'll tell you this, if you can put deposits in the relationship bank with those people on a semi-regular basis, whether it's, once a month doing something offsite or once a quarter doing something offsite, you will have a lot more freedom, flexibility, and forgiveness from those people in your organization if you're not showing up the best version of yourself. On the point of connection with your people, there's obviously a couple ways you can do this. The first thing is, of course, to schedule your time with your people. And again, just like the previous point, don't cancel your meetings with your people. But there's other ways you can stay in connection with them as well. And I know that this sounds a little bit planned and maybe even a little bit robotic, but have sections of your day carved out so you can do social media engagements and acknowledgements, right? Congrats on that listing, Kate. Oh my gosh, great job running that marathon, Joe. Whatever it is that's important to them in their world, it's important that you see what they're doing and you recognize what they're doing. Now, when your organization is at a level where you have more people working for you and you don't even know their names, it's important that you're teaching your director levels to have the same connections with their people. As a CEO, as a founder, as a president, you're never gonna know all of your people on a face-to-face level, on that deep of a basis. But if you can build a culture around relationships and teach your directors to have those same types of relationships with their people, you're gonna have an organization that feels connected and can survive any storm. Thank you guys so much for watching. One last reminder, there are no perfect leaders out there. In fact, as I'm going over the top mistakes of leaders, there's still a few in here that I know that even I can do a better job of. So have grace with yourself. And at the same time, what I'd like you to do is drop in the comments below which of these points you want to lean into in the next few months with your people, and share with me how it's going. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I will see you guys on the next one.